Hey guys, Captain here, and today I'm going to be making a Pokemon video. This one's actually about my collection. It's a video that I could have made a long time ago, and frankly I'm not quite sure why I haven't done it yet. So I guess now's the time. I like to collect retro Pokemon cards when I get the opportunity, like if I see one cheaply or if I can get a trade for it. And I have completed base set, not first edition or anything, just regular unlimited print. But nonetheless, I think it's kind of cool, and I like to have it. I don't really care for, having the first edition. So I guess I'll go through the cards one by one. Maybe for some notable ones, I'll give a few comments. Hopefully it won't take too long. Anyway, starting out with the Holos, there's Alakazam for you. One of my favorite Pokemon. And the card actually was pretty notable in damage swap or barrier swap decks way in the days of old. For those of you who played competitively in the fall of last year, 2011, Reuniclus and Gothitelle was pretty successful, and Alakazam is pretty much like Reuniclus. Next we've got Blastoise, which also had its own deck based around it. Can attach as much water energy as it wants per turn, so for some attacks you can really abuse that and do a lot of damage, especially on a bulky basic like Lapras once that got introduced in the Fossil expansion. Next up we have Chansey. Nothing special as far as I know. Charizard, which is of course one of the most iconic Pokemon cards, and actually even Pokemon of all time. Even though it was never really great competitively, this card, you had this card, you were cool. Because it had a massive 120 HP, only tied with Chansey, could deal 100 damage. And again, even though it wasn't that great from an actual playability standpoint, still a really cool card. Next up is Clefairy, probably the least favorite of all my Holos from this set, but oh well. Next is Gyarados. Don't have too much to say about this guy either. I do recall in the Pokemon trading card game video game, I had like 40 of these because there was one trainer you would fight. She had like higher odds of giving you like a water Pokemon as your rare or something like that, along those lines. So I got a ton of Gyarados. Next up is Hitmonchan. While it might not look special, this was actually very dominant competitively. Being a basic Pokemon having 70 HP is pretty notable. That was pretty bulky back then. Being able to deal 20 damage for 1 energy was also a big deal, even though right now, that seems terrible. But back then, that was a big deal, especially since you could hit a couple good things for weakness, some of which, or at least one of which I'll address later on. Next up is Machamp. I don't believe there's actually a non-first edition print of it. It's kind of an error. Not too much to say about it other than that. Next is Magneton. Again, I don't really have much to say. I think this was the second to last holo I acquired from the set. Pretty sure I bought it off a friend or traded for it or something along those lines. Moving on, got Mewtwo, which is a shame he wasn't such a great card. There was a good Mewtwo card from way back when, but it was the promo Mewtwo. This one kind of pales in comparison. Nidoking is another one of my favorite Pokemon, and while the card is not really too great, and as far as I know is never competitively successful, I still think it's pretty cool. Then there's Ninetales. Not too much to say about that. Poliwrath, again, not too much to say about that. Just another one of the Holos. Got 3 more. Raichu is the only holo I actually purchased from the set that I purchased on the internet. All the others I either pulled, traded for, or bought off friends. And it was the last holo I acquired from the set because no one I knew found one. I only ever found one other person at a tournament who had one, and they weren't really willing to trade it at the time. So it was actually pretty cheap when I got it. I think it cost me like $3. Really not bad. Next is Venusaur. This, I believe, was my first holo. The first holo I had from base set, which was pretty cool. I don't really have too much to say about it either, besides that. And then there's Zapdos. Yeah, another good old legendary Pokemon. Only one of the legendary birds to be included in this set. The others came with fossil expansion. Then onto the rares. There are actually only a few of these. There's Beedrill, Dragonair, Dugtrio, Electabuzz. This one was a really iconic card too. Well, maybe not iconic, but really notable. It was one of the big Pokemon in Haymaker decks, which were based on bulky basics. You'll notice another basic with 70 HP and a cheap but pretty decent attack. Either 1 for 10 with a chance of paralysis, or 1 for 30, possibly plus 10 as well. And it was weak to fighting, so Hitmonchan could counter it. Next is Electrode, which is a really cool card. It's a shame there weren't any comeback cards back then, like for example Twins, because it has a really cool ability. Basically, you sacrifice it and you attach it to another Pokemon for to use as 2 of any type of energy. So I use it in that one Vaporeon deck I was talking, or not Vaporeon, the Evolutions deck I was talking about, the little fun one I built. And Pidgeotto, nothing too special as far as I'm concerned. Finally, onto the uncommons. Arcanine, oddly enough, even though Growlithe is also an uncommon, I believe, I actually had a lot more Arcanine than Growlithe. I don't know if I ever even pulled my own Growlithe. Charmeleon, Dugong, I'm going to go a little bit faster through these. Dratini, Farfetch'd. As far as I know, before Scyther from Jungle came, this guy was the third in most Haymaker decks, because it was weak to lightning, but has resistance to fighting, so it could counter Hitmonchan, and in turn be countered by Electabuzz, you know. But it also it had pretty cheap splashable attacks. You could abuse Double Colorless to hit with Pot Smash, and Leak Slap could hit for an early 30 if you flip nicely. I don't think it's really too great, and it's definitely outclassed by Scyther, which is why Scyther ended up being used in Haymaker decks later, but still noteworthy, because it was used as far as I know. And there's Growlithe for you. There's Haunter, Ivysaur, Jinx, Kadabra, another one of my favorite Pokemon. I love the entire Abra line. Kakuna, Machoke, Magikarp, Magmar. While there was a notable Magmar that was used in some variants of Haymaker, this unfortunately was not the one. The notable one was from Fossil. Nidorino, Poliwhirl, Porygon, Raticate, Seal, Wartortle. And now on to the commons. We've got Abra, Bulbasaur, Caterpie, Charmander, Diglett, Doduo, Drowsy, Ghastly, Coughing, Machop, Magnemite, Metapod, Nidoran male, Onix, Pidgey, Pikachu. There were some misprints of this Pikachu and also some promos of it. I'm pretty sure it was like the E3 promo or something that used the same artwork. I might be mistaken on it, but I know there was also one where it would have red cheeks, and despite the fact that Pikachu normally has red cheeks, this actually was a misprint. So if you have a red cheeks Pikachu, that's worth a little bit. Poliwag, Ponyta, Rattata, Sandshrew, Squirtle, Starmie, Staryu, Tangela, Voltorb, Vulpix, and Weedle. And then onto the trainers from the set. Clefairy Doll, Computer Search, which was really good, one of the best search cards of all time, where you basically just discard 2 cards from your hand. You can find anything you want, whether it be Pokemon, trainer, energy, anything. Extremely useful. De-Evolution Spray, which I don't believe was ever any good, because I'm pretty sure the ruling on this one was that you couldn't evolve that Pokemon that turn. In fact, it might even specify that on the card. I think it was Hyper De-Evolution Spray, where you could re-evolve that Pokemon on that same turn. So that card ended up being pretty good. Imposter Professor Oak. Item Finder. It's essentially what we know today as Junk Arm. Hopefully when some of you people are watching this video, you'll still know what Junk Arm is. You discard 2 cards from your hand and take a trainer from your discard and put it in your hand. Item Finder, of course, was a lot better than Junk Arm, because even though Junk Arm can get you lots of useful things, this is back when everything was a trainer. There were no such things as supporters or stadiums. Although, well, stadiums got introduced a few sets later, but there were no such thing as supporters. So you could get, like, supporter-level cards with that. So, you could do really good plays. I'll mention another one in a bit. Lass. Pokemon Breeder. Essentially, this is rare candy. And in fact, with the card text here, this is like what we have as our current ruling of rare candy. Pokemon Trader is basically Pokemon communication. Scoop Up. Super Energy Removal, which was really good for energy disruption. Defender. Energy Retrieval, which is different than the one we know today. I think this copy's dirty, but I have a few others, some cleaner ones. Now you just take 2 basic energy from your discard. Back then you had to trade 1 card back. Full Heal. Maintenance. Plus Power. Notice the text was kind of long-winded back then. Now it's like your attack does 10 more damage. Pokemon Center. Pokemon Flute. Pokédex. Professor Oak. Now this card was like one of the most played trainer cards, because it's essentially Professor Juniper, but imagine that you didn't have a limit on just 1 per turn. So you could play multiples, and you could Item Finder for it back if you wanted. It's really not that hard if you have enough Item Finder, Professor Oak, Computer Search, other cards to help out with searching. You can draw your entire deck in 1 turn if you're playing with the old cards. Revive, which was also a little bit different back then than it is now. Back then you had to put it back on your bench with half health. Now they simplified it, so whatever you revive just has full health. Super Potion. Bill, which wasn't a crappy card back then. Bill basically says draw 2 cards, and now it's a supporter. Back then it was a trainer, so you could use as many as you wanted per turn, so it was great. Energy Removal, great for disruption. Imagine Crushing Hammer without the flip. Gust of Wind, which was basically Pokemon Catcher. Potion, which healed 2 damage counters back then, and actually for a long time it healed 2 damage counters. Only recently was that changed. Switch, and that concludes it for the trainers. You'll notice a lot of them have been reprinted, although some a little bit differently, you know. And then the energy, there was Double Colorless, and then the 6 basic energy, Fighting Fire Grass, and Lightning Psychic Water. So I guess that's about it for this video. Hope you liked it. Still in the process of completing Jungle and Fossil, and maybe once I complete those, maybe I'll move on to the other Wizards of the Coast sets, like Rocket and the Gym sets, maybe even the Neo sets. But it's nice still to have base set done, the original set. So anyway, if you like this video, please rate, comment, subscribe, send these to your friends, check out my other ones, and I will see you guys next time.